I don't think I've ever been more excited than I am right now about this quilt pattern design that I've come up with that I am going to share with you. Hi friends, Tracy here from the Sewing Channel. I have a scrap challenge for you. Well, half scrap and half not scrap. I have just designed a quilt called ScrapBerry Gingham, and it is so cute. I just know that you're going to want to make it. I have some basic written instructions on what you'll need to make this quilt. I even have a template right here that I've outlined for the stem of the strawberry. This printout goes right along with this video that I'm about to share with you today. Use them together so you don't miss anything. So I said challenge, right? For my beginners, don't get nervous. Take this little broken dish block that I use in the video and change it into a half square triangle where you just connect two pieces together instead of four, and you'll be good to go from there. But for my intermediate advanced quilters, I challenge you to make this quilt. These broken dish blocks were super challenging. Here's the deal. Make the quilt in your interpretation of it. It could be different colors, it could even be a blueberry, whatever. Then I want you to email me pictures of it. If you have the capability, tag me on Instagram with the hashtag ScrapBerry Gingham Quilt. If I get less than 10 people that send me pictures, I will put them on my community post. If I get more than 10 pictures of ScrapBerry Gingham, I am going to showcase it in one of my videos. I really hope you do it because it's going to be so much fun. You're up for the challenge. You can find my email on the About page on my YouTube channel. Yours truly makes a traditional quilt in today's video. I even use wool batting, which I've never used. How did that turn out? But first, a few shout outs. I am so thankful for each and every one of you who want to watch my videos, subscribe to my channel, and even give monetarily to my channel. It's amazing. To show my appreciation for my viewers, I do this shout out on every video now. Since my last video, I've had quite a few new supporters. The ones who bought me coffee, I want to thank Mary and Dinah T. Black, Lisa. This one's kind of special right here. This one says, "Your bestie," and I know exactly who that is. I love you and thank you. Sharon K. and Katie Lynn, thank you for those coffees. They will keep me energized and going. Over the past couple months, I've been getting some super thanks through the YouTube channel as well. Here are some super thanks over the past couple months. Susanna P., thank you. Anna Banana, cute name, thank you. Thank you to Penny Full One, Faith S., and Carmel K., thank you. Barb S., Terry S., and Bonnie H., thank you all for those super thanks. Enough talking already. Let's get busy. This video ain't getting any shorter. For today's quilt, we're definitely going to starch that fabric. The type of block that we're going to do to make our strawberries, we're going to be on the bias cut, which means the stretchy part. If you were to press these cute little blocks after you were all done and you did not starch, there would be stretching involved and you would have overlapping seams. Parts of the fabric would be stretched and it wouldn't match up anymore with the seam and the other piece of fabric. This was my mock-up right here, and that definitely happened to me because I did not starch these. You definitely want to starch. Now, as far as the background fabric for the gingham on this one, you may or may not choose to starch. Now that's totally up to you. I probably will starch mine so that way that all of the fabric pieces in the entire quilt have continuity and they are all starched. So it's up to you though. Now, as far as the starch that I use, I buy the cheap one from the Dollar General. The name brand on it is True Living. I don't know if that's a name brand starch or not, but this is the one that I buy. It's called Heavy Starch and it works perfect for me. This right here is a paint can trigger spray, and I will link it down below. I would not starch any fabric unless I had this right here because my finger gets tired. All you do is simply squeeze these two pieces here and pop that on. You have to turn your nozzle so that it's spraying out this area right here and that it's on that red dot. The next thing I utilize is this folded up cardboard. I have a couple of these that I use for starching. It helps with overspray. You don't want to spray on a piece of cardboard that has writing, of course. The printer ink could bleed through to the fabric and we don't want that. You can do either side, the white or the cardboard on this one since it has no print. This one is very well used because it does kind of curl up after a while, but it's still usable once it's dry. I only needed 6.5-inch squares of each of these colors. If the fabric was a lot larger than what I needed, I trimmed it down for this project because why waste the starch on something that you may not need starch on later? So what I do is lay all of my pieces out first and cover the entire board here. Even pieces like this that are even a little bit bigger, this scrap piece of pink that I had, and I'm going to rough cut, but I'm gonna make sure that I leave at least 1 inch all the way around because when you spray starch on dry fabric, it shrinks big time. So don't cut this to fit before you starch it, never. So I'm just going to lay this down as a guide right here, my 6.5 inches. And I'm going to eyeball this at about 1 inch or so around. These two pieces, we'll just throw them into my pink scrap bag over there on the Scrap Wall of Fame and we'll use it another time. So we'll just lay that one there. Here's another one in polka dot. I'm going to just lay it down, guesstimate, eyeball about 1 inch around. And you notice I'm not using the edge of the ruler either, I'm just eyeballing it. These two scraps into the scrap bin. Look at this scrap right here. I'm definitely not going to starch all this craziness. I'm just going to cut out what I need, which was more than 6.5 inches. I have one layer covering my cardboard right now, overlapping in some spots on the corners and such. That's okay. Then I'm going to take and spray the entire piece of cardboard area wherever I see fabric hitting it. I'm going to make sure I hit all of the fabric. Even where it's overlapping, I'm going to give that an extra spray just to make sure I hit that. This one I need to pull back a little bit and just, there we go. I want to make sure I catch the ends. I do saturate this fabric pretty wet. I don't flip it over and spray the wrong side of the fabric. I just feel like that's a waste of my starch because this really does work just catching the front and saturating it. It does go through to the back. And I'm only flipping this one over and catching that edge and flipping it back because I don't want to spray my table right here. You can literally see this shrink as you spray too. It's really amazing how much cotton really does shrink up. Once I have that layer all sprayed, I then take my other squares and just kind of lay them on top there. Anywhere, doesn't matter. Once you get that second layer on, I wouldn't do any more than that typically. I just want to get it on there and wet so that it can start to dry. You can see here everything is saturated really good. Now what I do is take this entire board because it's totally portable and I take it into my bedroom where there's a ceiling fan. This is dry underneath here, by the way. So nothing's going to get on my bed, no worries. So I lay this right on my bed. I put the ceiling fan down on it. I put another standing fan off to the side so it blows at it from the side. And then as they dry over the next hour, I'll periodically go in there every 20 minutes or so and move them around and see if, you know, the air is not catching a certain portion of it, maybe this corner or whatever, and I'll move things around a bit. Depending on the temperature in your home, it could take anywhere from 1 to 4 hours maybe for this to dry with all of the fans on it. It really doesn't take too long. Say you're going to make this quilt on Tuesday. Make sure that you starch all of your fabric on Monday and cut it so that way you're ready for Tuesday. Here I have all of my red fabrics for this quilt and they're all starched. Some of them are a little bit damp still, and that's okay, but you want it probably about 80% all the way dry. I do find that pressing on a wool mat really does help the fabric to lay its flattest. Once I have this one pressed right here, I'm just going to layer another one on top of it and sort of line it up on its best edge, because I'm going to stack cut these and I'm going to show you how to do that. You can see here I even had to use some Christmas fabric because I was definitely running out of reds for this project. What ate up all of my red scraps to begin with this year was that huge flag quilt that I made. Oh my word, it turned out so good. I love it. But it definitely got hungry when it came to red. I have 4 stacked here, so let me show you how to cut it with 4. This right here is my Martelli wool mat on one side and cutting mat on the other side. It's actually really nice. I will link the Martelli link down below so that you can take advantage of this right here. If you use any of my affiliate links that are in my information box, it only helps the sewing channel to bring you more videos like this one. So where I stacked it up along this edge right here, let's see, let me turn it so you can kind of see, so that all of the fabrics were toward this corner right here. And then I'm going to take my 6.5 inch ruler. I'm going to come in a bit so that I get a nice straight edge and I catch all of those fabrics right there. Once my ruler is laid down and I have, you know, some peeking out along that corner edge, and I know I definitely have enough along this edge here. Now it's time to just cut along this edge. Look at that. This rotary cutter right here is also from Martelli. This thing is awesome. Now you can see here that I do have a bigger blade, and that's because I use a 60mm rotary cutter and blade. I just find that it covers the surface area quicker. This other side here, take that excess out. Now with this mat, you can turn it the way that you want it. I've cut that, and now I've cut that. Now I'm going to come in here and trim that side. These you may be able to save some of those strips. I think those are totally usable. They're about 1 inch or so. We'll put these in the scrap pile. And again, I'm just going to turn this like so, and I'm going to trim the rest of that off. This rotary cutter is amazing. I use this rotary cutter because I have arthritis, and it was a game changer for me personally in the sewing room. I used to be so sore in my hands using the traditional rotary cutters. Once I started using the ergonomic rotary cutter, it was a no-brainer to keep using it. When I go now to try to use a different rotary cutter, I feel like I'm uneducated because I don't know what to do anymore because it's not ergonomic to my hand, the old style. So yeah. So here you can see we have 4 beautiful blocks cut and ready. If I wasn't taking the time to film this video, I would just press all of these first and then go in and cut them. That just makes for more efficient work. I did starch all of the other fabric that I'm going to put into this quilt. This fabric right here is the medium color in our gingham quilt. There's typically a dark, a medium, and then a very light or white in a gingham quilt. I've taken and cut from salvage to salvage strips, but I fold it together. And this is the tip that I want to give you here. Whenever you fold fabric together, and I don't care if it's an inch or whole 42 inches, you need to always have the folded edge right here toward you. You don't want to have that folded edge away from you at all, because you're not going to be able to square it up right on your ruler because it's so far away. So this is the folded edge right here. The best practice for cutting a big long piece of fabric like this when you fold it is to have a ruler that covers that entire surface area that you're going to cut. I need a ton of 5.5-inch squares in the medium fabric. First thing I'm going to do is lay down what I need, and that's 5.5 inches. So I'm going to take this ruler, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a half. So I'm going to hold that ruler right there. I'm going to butt this ruler up against there while maintaining the 5.5-inch strip that I need. Now I'm going to look right here on this fold. I'm going to make sure that the line on my ruler is right along the line of the fold area. If I don't line that up and I cut this and don't check that, I'm going to have a bowed strip. You don't want that. So it's best to line that up on the fold. Check all the way down that you have 5.5 inches, and then you adjust at that point if you need to push this a little bit that way or back a little bit. I just tap it if I need to. Once you feel confident that you have your measurement right, then it's time to cut. Hold your hand and slice. Since this is a longer strip, I'm going to stop in the middle with my hand right here. I'm going to stop and then lift my hand up, put it over here and press down and go the rest of the way. I do have weights that I use sometimes on the end of the ruler, and it's nice and cleanly cut. Lay it there and then go on to the next. Let me show you how I subcut these strips out. I take the strips, lay them flat, grab another one here, and then lay it flat right on top, layering it perfectly on top of the other one. And since I have both salvages right here, I'm just going to line those up. And then just with your hand, make sure everything is nice. Grab another one, line up that salvage area, and then layer the rest of the way down, making sure that everything is directly on top of one another. If it looks off to you, you may have not made that fold cut properly if it's bowing. So you really just want to really take note of that area. And if you feel like you can't get that by folding it, then simply just open the fabric up and make a full-on cut. You will have to move the fabric, but it's okay. Until you get used to doing it, it probably won't seem right, but just practice. So let's cut the salvage off while we're here. And I'm just lining up on my roller and checking up there. Everything is nice and lined up. And slice that off. Now I'm going to bring in my ruler again, and I'm going to go 5.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then that half. Butt this ruler up against here. Make sure everything is lined up nice. extra, we can just toss it in the scrap bin. I'm going to get to cutting all of the other squares that I need, and then we're going to get to some fun stuff. As if this wasn't fun already, right? First, let's assemble that very top row right above the top of the strawberry. You need to have your diagram handy next to you when you're making this quilt so you know where the medium fabrics go, the dark fabrics, and what's connected to the green parts in this quilt. For that very top area, we're just going to deal with 1 6.5 inch piece of green, 1 6.5 of the white, and 1 6.5 of the medium. The first thing I want you to do is slice this green corner to corner right in half. Leaves you with 2 triangle pieces. Next, slice the medium piece right in half, corner to corner. One piece put with the green pieces you just cut. The other medium colored triangle you're gonna just set aside for now. We're gonna use it later. Take the white 6.5 inch piece and slice that corner to corner in half. Again, set one of the white pieces aside and we'll save it for later. And put the white one in this pile with the 2 green pieces and the other medium piece that you just cut. You're going to take and put a white piece with the green, right sides together. Take the medium print and lay that right sides together. Even though I totally starched all my fabric, I'm still going to pin because whenever you're on the bias, you just want to take all the precautions you can. We're going to be sewing them on the long edge right here together. We're going to be making half square triangles. So I'm just going to pop a pin in the top and in the bottom. Next, you're going to take it to the sewing machine and sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance down that side on both. Once these are all sewn up, then you're simply going to just press. I am going to press to the green side. I don't know that it matters. You do whatever you want. This is how these two sit at the top of the strawberry. Then the stem would come straight up out of the middle. Before we sew these together, we need to trim them down to 5.5 inches square, because that is what all of the blocks in our quilt are, 5.5 inches square. So we need to make sure that we cut all of them down to that so that everything is sewn together perfectly. Make sure you use a ruler with a diagonal line going straight through it, because that on your ruler is what you're going to line up on that seam. And then I'm going to simply just trim it. Flip it around, put your diagonal there. Now you can trim it up for sure on all the edges. Make sure your 5.5 is all along that bottom edge and trim. Now this right here, we can actually sew that together right now because our stem's an applique. That is dealt with at the end of this quilt top. So this is what these 2 blocks look like right there. Now since it's bulky down here, I'm going to open this seam up so that it distributes that bulk. Looking good. The next 2 blocks I'm going to work on is this one that goes next to here and this one right next to those top leaves. These strips are 2.5 inches by about 8 inches. You'll need the white and you'll need a medium. This side right here that's facing this leaf, you're going to come up 1 3/4 inches. Make a mark. Down at the bottom, you're going to come down here and come 1/2 inch in from this corner and make a mark. You're going to do that on both these pieces, just mirror images of each other. So the mark that comes up 1 3/4 inches is going to be next to the leaf on this one. Once you have your marks on there, you're then going to take that green strip, put it right side down, and you're going to line it right up where you made that 1/2 inch in and where you made that 1 3/4 inches up there. You're going to lay the edge of this fabric as it's facing right sides together, match that up, the edge of that fabric with the marks that you made. I want you to pop a pin in there to hold that. Once you have it pinned, you're going to take it to the sewing machine, sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down on both of these. So you're sort of left with this right here. Take this green here and you're going to flip that up onto there and you're going to press that. And do the same with the white. You're pressing it down toward the smaller edge of the block. This is the order right here that it goes in. Flip this over like so. On the back side, line up 5.5 inches square. You should have a guide already because your block was already 5.5 inches square. Unlike this one where we had 6.5 to begin with. Once you have the green from the back side all taken off, flip it back over. I want you to lift up that green to expose that seam, and then I want you to take your ruler and trim off all of that excess pink. So now you're left with that. This one, again, trim everything up just like you did the pink one. So there is that top portion, all done with that. So here's what we have so far, and I just put these up here loosely just to give you an idea of that particular row in this quilt. My goal is to put the entire strawberry together and then go on with the easy stuff. Before we can even add the rest of our green though, we need to make our broken dishes quilt blocks. The reason why I chose the broken dish quilt block for this strawberry gingham quilt is because with all of these different fabrics within the block itself, it just makes the strawberry sparkle. I don't know, I just really do love it. Once you have all of your 6.5 inch pieces cut out in the red and in the pink, then it's time to pair them up with each other. This pink, put right sides together and just set diagonally to yourself because we are going to be putting a line right down the middle from corner to corner. I'm going to go ahead and match these up, but I'm not going to bore you with it. So I'm going to cut this film real quick and I'll meet you back here in a second. So once you get all of your scrap pieces, red and pink together, and you've laid them right sides together, you're going to turn it on point and then mark from corner to corner a straight line. You can pin at this stage if you like. I'm going to see how it does through my sewing machine without pinning first, and then if I see that things are going to go awry, then I'm going to pin these. Use this as your guide right here, and you're going to sew 1/4 inch away from that line, but you're not going to sew down the other side just yet. So you're going to take all these to the sewing machine and only sew down one side. You can chain piece them down one side, and then I want you to stop. Once you get your entire pile all sewn on one side, then you're going to take where you see that line that you put on all of the squares, you're going to cut on that line. You're going to be left with a side that is connected together and then a side that is not connected together. I want you to put the one side that is connected together in one pile, take those two pieces that are loose and pile them up onto each other in color order. All the pinks in one pile and all the reds in another pile. So I'm going to take and put this in the pile that's sewn and connected. I love variety when it comes to colors and things like that. So I wanted to mix it up more than I wanted to be efficient. So that's why we have a little bit of extra work to do. So I'm going to trim that, separate these two pieces, pink and red, and this one's connected. So I'm going to keep going on this one. Let's just pretend that I have all of these done for sake of me cutting film. Once you get all of these done, you're going to take and press all of the ones that are connected already. And it's up to you. I'm going to press to the red side. And once I get all of these pressed and in a pile, and that part's all done, then I have these to deal with right here. How I'm going to do that is, you see that this one is the red polka dot and this pink one here. This pink here, this red. I'm going to match all those loose ones up and make sure that they don't have the counterpart the same as what's in this pile right here. The pile that I pressed from the one side that I cut, and then I have these two other piles right here. You just want to randomly match them up, making sure that, say, this pink right here doesn't get connected to another heart. That would just defeat the purpose of me trying to mix things up. So yeah, I don't want this to confuse you, but in that last step that we were just working on, when you get to the point where you have the red and the pink together, flip it over so that you're looking at the wrong side and you're looking at the seam going horizontal. What you want to do is take your ruler and go from corner to corner and slice it so that you're left with this right here. Now you want to set 10 halves aside. Those 10 halves are these right here that have to do with the top of the strawberry and on the edges of the strawberry. So you need 10 halves. Make sure that you have it in the correct color order though. Like this one right here, putting the pink on there, that would not go there because we need a red on this side and a pink up there. So this side would go, so we could use that one for sure. So I just want you to be mindful of that. So 10 halves in the right color order. Now back to making these beautiful colorful blocks. So I'm gonna match one each up and sew down the line, which leads me to this one right here. Remember I showed you this one a minute ago? Once you get all this done and you get all these sewn, you're going to take one piece and another piece and you're going to put them right sides together. But here's the trick. When you put them right sides together, you want opposites. So the red here, red there, pink there, pink there. But you want to line them up each on the seam that they're sewn on. Make sure that that seam is nesting within there. Pop a pin in one side. So you've pinned it there. You're going to check on this side. Twist it like that so you can see. Going to make sure that that is nice and nested and pop a pin there. Then you're going to go like this so that the seam is horizontal to you. Then you're going to take a skinny ruler and you're going to draw another line down the center here. You might need to be aware of that ledge right there. Just lift your pencil up or your marking tool, whatever you're using, and mark it. For this block though, we're going to sew on one side and we are now going to sew on the other side because this will be our cut line in the end. So I've sewn on both sides and then I'm going to take my pins out, have my longer ruler, not that skinny one, and then I'm going to line corner to corner and then I'm going to slice right down the middle. And that leaves me with that pretty one there and that pretty one there. And this is where you will finally have the identical blocks, except for the fact they're not totally identical, because if you twist them, you know, they're I'll say mirror images of each other. Now for this block right here, I am going to open the seams on these little broken dish blocks just to avoid a lot of bulk. Oh my word, this quilt is so much fun. I love it. Oh, and the starch, oh my word, so much better in this than in my mock-up. Definitely. Starch is totally not negotiable in this quilt. You need to starch, definitely. Once you have your broken dish all sewn up and pressed nicely, then you're going to trim it down to, you guessed it, 5.5 inches square. Line up that diagonal line along one of the diagonal lines on my block. But for this, to make sure that it's even all the way around, I'm looking for overhang of about 1/8 or a little bit more inch hanging out from this ruler on my 5.5 mark. That just sort of tells me that I'm in the center somewhere. Line up again after you've turned it. Because you don't want one broken dish to be bigger than the other one. That's not what we're going for. We're going for continuity of evenness of the brokenness. So as you can see, I did end up changing my colors from pink and red gingham to light blue and darker blue gingham. I just felt like the pink was washing my strawberry out, and I really wanted my strawberry to pop. As far as the gingham went, I did 4 patches, and remember, these are all 5.5 inch squares. This is the pattern that you will follow for the gingham. I still may do a border of the broken dishes across the top and bottom yet. I'm not sure though. So this right here was just normal construction. I have a stack all ready to go. But first, let me show you how I placed my broken dishes. The 2 reds here are on opposite sides, and then you have your pink going down. So I'm going to alternate. Just follow the red with me. Red, 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 and red. If you'll recall earlier where I inserted that tiny video about these right here, you just have to make sure that your placement is correct so that when you place it up here, that these are opposites. You want to have that diagram nearby to know where your darks and your mediums and your white go in your gingham quilt. And here, this is what matches up in this spot if you look at the diagram. This dark blue one here, and then you have this medium blue there, and then the half white. Over here, you have 2 of the medium blues, and then the white here, and a medium blue here. This will box our entire strawberry in first. My goal is to get this entire strawberry sewn up, and then add this piece right here, and then I can go ahead and add these to my design wall to line everything up. The first thing here that I'm going to do is connect these 2 triangles together, here and the other ones down here. And I'm also going to cut them down to the 5.5 inch square so it fits in my strawberry. So let's do that.
I'm starting to get super excited about this strawberry.
I wanted to show you a trick here when you get to this point, when you need to match this point up in the center. I put these together in 4 patches. That's the easiest for me. And then I go ahead and sew them together like rows. But here I just wanted to show you, we're going to match these 2 up right here. So I'm going to flip those together. And you'll see there, just by lifting that up, it's going to be really hard to match that up as a point in the center. And we want to get it as close as possible. So I'm going to take my pin, and on this side here, you can see where that V shape is. It's probably an upside down V to you. It's right there. Find that center point where they meet up, right in the middle seam there. So I've put my pin through, and they're in between both of those 2 pinks right there. where it comes to the V shape. I'm going to then find the V shape point on this one, which is right there. You see where the V shape is? And then I'm going to just take my pin and go right in there, like so. That pin right there is going to be the center of that point. While that's in there, just like that, I'm then going to grab the end here, being sure that this is still staying right there in the center. You can see here that when I do that, this is not even up, but I need to sew it like that because otherwise I'll have a slanted block. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop a pin right there. Then I'm gonna come over here, still checking to make sure that that is indeed in center. Go ahead and pin this one over here right in the center. Then I'm going to take this out and pop a pin right next to that seam, and then I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch down. It's very important that you come in exactly at a 1/4 inch where that point is. That will ensure that in the end everything's matching together. But let's see how we did. I'll go ahead and sew it. You can see there our 1/4 inch has been sewn on both sides. I have not looked to see if I made the point yet or not, so let's look together. Okay, very good. Oh, I love it when a plan comes together, right? So I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to open this seam up. That technique that I just shared with you is the best that I have found to get multiple seams like that to all line up in the center.
I just wanted to show you here my 4 patches of each of those blocks so you could see how I did put this together. It's almost done. There you go. There's my beautiful strawberry. I'm loving it. A lot of my points don't match, but you're not going to ever see it because I'm not going to show it to you. I will tell you that when it comes to points matching, this block is truly a challenge. I'm always up for a challenge. Are you?
For the binding on today's quilt, I'm going to cut 1 3/4 inch strips. Binding typically when you double fold, it makes more of a stiffer type binding. I want this quilt to be as fluid as possible. I chose this really cute gingham. Now it's in between sort of a red and a pink, so it's going to be perfect for this quilt. But I don't want to put it on the quilt just with the blocks like normal. I want to cut it on point. Line your ruler up at a 45-degree angle here and find the center somewhere. Once you get that 45-degree angle cut, you're then going to come in with your ruler and measure out 1 3/4 inches. Cut as many strips as you can out of this fat quarter. Now if you have yardage, that's great too, but I'm going to miter these together just like I would if I was making a double fold quilt binding. You can see here I already have angle cuts because I used a fat quarter, so you will probably have a blunt edge if you're using yardage. So since we're using gingham and we're trying to match it up and it's cut on the bias or on point, I first take the one side and fold back a line of gingham, and I put a finger crease there. And take this and just match it up so that you have some hanging over for the 1/4 inch here, of course. And once you think you have a pretty good match and you finger press that right there, all you're going to do is just take your finger and hold right there. You see it's still lined up here. And then you're just going to take a pin this side here. So that's pinned right there. And when I lift that up where I creased it, you can see that it matches up perfectly. But I'm going to go one step further beyond that crease. I'm going to take a ruler and I'm going to line it up from right here where those two fabrics meet. and also right here where those two fabrics meet. And then I'm just going to draw a line. All you're going to do is sew right on top of that line. This is what that looks like when it's sewn on that line that we made, and if you see here, when we pull it over, it matches up. With the excess right here, you're going to measure from that line that you made where you just sewed on out and trim off, leaving a 1/4 inch off to the side of where that thread is. And then you'll just flip it over. I did press that seam open. I'm going to take and fold up approximately a 1/2 inch and press it. So this is what that binding looks like. All sewn up with these strips all connected and then folded over a 1/2 inch. Here's the stem right here. I just pinned up there for now, but it already does have all of the applique stuff on the back. This is the template that I made up for the stem on this quilt. This will be on the printout, so you can have the exact same stem that I made for my strawberry quilt. You can use any type of applique that you wish here. For this stem right here, I did use some Wonder Under applique. Now you can use Heat and Bond or whatever you have on hand, or none at all. You can just cut it out and sew it on in the end. With the Wonder Under, you press it on and then trim it out, and then there's a peel away back, leaving this sticky right here, and then you would just iron this on here and then tack it on with some sewing. I've taken the backing off of the applique, so I'm going to see if I can't just put a quick press while it's up on my design wall here. I typically don't press things on my design wall, but I figured real quick I could tack it down at least. So the way I have it, this is the 45-degree angle here that I have cut into that stem. I'm just making sure that everything is nice and even there. And then I'm going to just come in with this iron and just press. You can see there it's almost all the way pressed on. I hope it's straight, only word. That is definitely tacked on. I will definitely reinforce this when I get this underneath my machine after I've sandwiched everything together to tack all that down along the edge. Let's talk batting for a second. Now, if you've been around here for a good minute, you know that I love a good cuddly quilt, and so do the people I give my quilts to. I will typically put a minky on the back of my quilts just because it's so snuggly. And if I have to use batting, I usually use cotton batting. My friend Di over at Sister Chicks Quilting, she always uses wool batting. She claims that it's so drapey and just so gorgeous to lay with. I purchased some wool batting from Hobbs. I'll tell you, it's very different than any other batting I've ever worked with. To be honest, my very first impression was, this is cheap. That's what it feels like anyways. Wool batting claims to keep you warm in the winter and keeps you cool in the summer. Good thing summer's right now because I'll be checking this one out for sure to see if it's true or not. Here's a comparison right here of cotton batting and wool batting. It's a huge difference. For the backing, I chose this really cute strawberry print with a very light purple hue in the gingham part. It is super cute. I know it's gonna look darling on the back of this quilt, and it is 100% cotton. It's not minky. So this is definitely a traditional quilt for me to make. I spray basted with my 505 and I also pin basted. Now it's time to get it up here on my Juki and start free motion quilting. This right here is my free motion quilting setup. I have a couple of these twill tapes hanging off of the wall and here on this pole right here. This right here is nailed into the studs really good, so it's not going anywhere. So I can be assured that's not gonna fall down on me while I'm free motion quilting. And over here, I have some of those command hooks that are on the wall, and I have binder clips where these are connected to the quilt So that way it lifts those edges up off of my table. So as I'm free motion quilting, I don't have that drag. Now you may experience drag in free motion quilting by seeing those tiny little stitches where it doesn't want to seem to pull your way or push away from you the way that you want it to go. That's drag. You don't want that, that's bad. What this does is it lifts those edges up just enough so that if I'm right here and I'm making a design, do you see how fluid that goes back and forth and all around? And then I can stop, lift my hands, and then continue on. It's just a game changer when it comes to free motion quilt. You can see here that my Juki is turned on its side, and it's meant to do that for free motion quilting. It not only pieces my quilt top together super fast, but it can free motion quilt like no other machine I've ever experienced. I love this machine. If you use my Juki Junkies affiliate link to buy any machine off of their website, you will get a free gift with that purchase. That only just helps the sewing channel out to make more videos just like this for you. When it comes to trimming my quilts, I always start at the corners. I take my big 12.5-inch square ruler and lay it down on one of the corners. I line it up squarely as possible, being sure to get as much fabric in there as possible. I'm going to trim it all the way up to where my ruler ends right there. Take your big long ruler. This one's approximately 24 inches in length. You're going to line it up where you squared it off, right there, that line. I'm going to slice it. Once I make the first cut on that first corner, then I'm going to come up to the opposite corner, just like I did previously on the other corner. So I'm looking at this edge here, and I'm also looking at this mark within here. You're then left with this tiny chunk right here that should be in the center of both of those corners. Up your ruler, using the same technique as before, lining up along the cuts here that you just made, and then coming in here to see where you're at on that mark. The trick here, if there is a trick, is to make sure that this is flush here along with this right here, this line. Because if you have that even and that even, what you cut off here is going to make that the same size of evenness. Here I'm using my Juki compensating presser foot. It makes adding binding to your quilt just so much easier. This chunky part right here stays up against this side of the edge of the quilt, and then you just feed the binding right onto the edge. So right to that corner at a 45-degree angle. Take this binding right here and flip it this way. You want this right here to be matching up straight. Then take this piece while holding here and flip it back over. Make sure that this is nice and flush along that edge. Hold that. Make sure that this piece right here is along the raw edge of your quilt top. Nice and straight, and that area is nice and square around there. Slip it back underneath your sewing machine foot and continue sewing that 1/4 inch. Let me show you what that looks like. Whichever way that seam is open toward, you want to fold it the opposite way. So you want to fold this one in first, and then this one. See how that one's open there, and then that's facing the other way. So I really am trying to give you guys the money shot here. I can't even tell you how much I love this quilt. I have put my heart and sweat and tears, no tears, into this quilt. It is not an easy task trying to make your own pattern from scratch, but it's something I've never really done before, and I did it, and I'm proud of it. That gingham binding, it was a total winner. I love how it turned out. I will totally use that 1 3/4 inch binding again on another quilt because it was not thick and it didn't leave the edges stiff, and I love that. That strawberry print on the back, perfect. The contrast with the blue and the pink, perfect. Don't forget to print out the companion to this video. It has all of the fabric requirements and everything that you'll need to make this quilt. Are you up for the ScrapBerry Gingham Quilt Challenge? You let me know in those comments. Look at your screen around you right now. I have hand-picked videos just for you if you fell in love with today's tutorial. Click on one of them so we can keep learning together. Until next time on the Sewing Channel, take care.